Okay, green packet, number 1. First problem in the green. Okay, this is a continuation of the goal. In the goal packet, we did a lot of discussion about this amusement park problem. We did a item in the goal where we said that N of T was the number of people in the park. And for that item, they said, assume that there were 300 when the park opened. For this question, we're not assuming that. We're assuming there are 0 in the park when the park opens. So we would have been able to write down from our previous work that N of T is equal to 0 in the park to start with, plus the integral from the time the park opens to whatever time we choose, n prime of, and now we cannot use the letter T, so we'll use Z instead. We talked about that last time, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Questions? Solid. All right. It says, at what time does the model predict that the number of people in the park is a maximum? So I'd like everyone to say yes or no. Well, raise your hand if you can answer this. Are they asking us to find a absolute maximum or a relative maximum? How do you know? Hands up. They said the word maximum, so I'm on alert for one or the other. So hands up. Are they looking for relative, absolute, and how do you know? How do you tell the difference? Let's go, Dylan.
Relative.
2 points. It's actually absolute, and the way you know is there is no word relative in the phrasing. So it's not like a written rule, but from my observation, they have never ever, in 50 years of questioning, expected the student to find a relative max if they didn't actually use the word relative or local. So I know I'm safe to think absolute because those words aren't being used. Does that make sense? 3 for Dylan. How many knew it before I said it? 2 more. Okay, questions? Cool. So that means we want to write, hey, this is like test 3. This is not a new idea. In fact, if you are still retaking test 3, you have to be able to write down what we're going to write in order to get a few problems correct on test 3. So we need someone to raise your hand and tell me, what is the guiding statement? Like, what do we write in order to make sure we're finding the max of N? Let's go, Anna.
N has a relative max when n prime changes from positive to negative.
2 points. I'm going to use that in a minute, but I want something above that. So here's what I want you all writing on your paper. The maximum value, the max value of N of T will be let's see, either the very first value of N, the very last value of N, or the value of N where N has a relative max. Questions? Cool. So now I need to use the statement that Anna said, 2 more for Anna. I need to write, I gotta get a new page here. So let's copy this over. So now I write Anna's statement. N has relative max when n prime changes positive to negative. Questions? So everybody in the room, raise your hand. How am I going to figure out that green thing? How am I going to figure out when n prime changes from positive to negative? Looking for hands? Hoping for more? Hoping for more? Now we're looking pretty good. Getting about 2/3 of the room. Let's go, Jack.
When it goes increase, decrease.
Well, we do know that n will go increase to decrease at exactly the same time that n prime is changing positive to negative. But the whole question is, how do I find that time? So 2 points. How do I find that timing?
Sign chart.
I'm going to pay a ticket for this one. Here's why. I really am glad that you said it, because it brings up a key idea that everyone needs to memorize. If you don't have a calculator and you don't have a graph, you've got to do a sign chart. Once you have a graph or a calculator, don't ever do a sign chart. Yeah, no worries. It's just, we don't need to. We have a better way of accomplishing the task.
Yeah.
Like, what would you make a sign chart of? No, you're doing fine. Like, your thinking is right in the right place. What would you be making a sign chart of?
I don't know, just the.
What are you trying to, okay, don't stay with me. The green statement is talking about something changing sign. What's it talking about changing sign?
It's talking about n prime.
Changing sign.
Yeah.
So what would you need a sign chart of?
N prime.
N prime, make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I gave you a ticket. So yes, a sign chart of n prime makes complete sense, but I have something much better than a sign chart of n prime, because I can grab my calculator. 1 second, Jessica, sorry. I can grab my calculator, I can type in my calculator n prime, because we talked last time that n prime is just the in rate minus the out rate. So I'm going to put that in my calculator. I'm going to remember from previous discussion that I have this amount. This amount is, known as n. And then my n prime, the rate at which my amount is changing, n prime, that's going to equal the in rate subtract the out rate. So in my calculator, that's what I did. I set up in rate y1, out rate y2, y3 is my n prime. Jessica, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just answering your question.
Perfect. 2 points for helping, please.
And the in rate minus the out rate is n prime, not n.
Correct. Yeah, that should feel pretty good to you, because you can't have a rate equal an amount. So, 2 points for Hunter. Anybody else? Sabrina?
How do you do the fraction thing again?
Oh, sorry. For the fraction, just type alpha, and then the y equal button.
Okay.
Okay, once I have all that there, I want to turn off my y1 and y2. So turn those off. I want to window from 9 to 23 in ZoomFit. Did you finish the blue packet as requested?
Yes, I just.
You make some fine pottery.
Thank you.
It's the second time. No, really, I make pottery about as good as I dance, so I'm impressed.
You dance pretty well.
You're very kind.
I didn't expect that. What is your name? It's just taking forever.
So mine was like most frustrated by like
Did you get it?
Because we're talking about what's happening.
How did I not hear that?
Maybe I turned it on.
You got
You did times 160.
Oh, I didn't even pull. I think 60. I came in yesterday. I was just taking so I decided not to retake it. So if I got a 90 on this test, I don't know. You have to change your wallet.
And you just find what
Hey.
Oh, I knew why. Because if you know like a max, like absolute max, then you can find
You don't want that. I feel like it's so useless for this class.
Oh, I guess we don't. No, we are just plugging in. And then we keep plugging because we already have the equation for finding entity.
where's mine looking like this? So and then is it, are we supposed to turn off my one?
Yeah, we got to turn off my wall and change it.
Oh, we need 9 3.
I think so. Maybe 15, but definitely 9.
So I think you'll one over to the one that's 11 seconds.
Yeah.
Hard. I did not.
All right, should have what I have on the screen. Questions? Questions? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll go, yeah. I'll look to it. Put it flat, so it's right. Oh, I'll show you. No, that's a good question. Okay, so I need to find that time right there. Is it okay? So, second, trace 0. Left bound. Now I put the cursor on the right side of the 0. Now for the video, I put the cursor as best I can right at the 0 and I press enter. Make sure it says 0. If it does not say 0, you are going to lose points. Questions? Okay, now this is Maddox's question. I need to use 15.795, but I cannot retype 15.795. That will cause me to lose points. So I'm going to write it down. N has R max when n prime changes positive or negative, which is at t equal 795. Questions? I need to store that value somewhere, so I'm going to write here equals b. So the grader can see where I stored that value. To store the value, you make sure that the screen says 0. Once you are assured that the screen is saying 0, you type second quit. And now we type the x value, store that x value in alpha b. Question? So x, store alpha b. Jacob.
Is there a reason why you're not using A?
Oh, only because I tend to use A to represent the amount of something. I tend to use A to represent area, to represent acceleration. Don't use B quite as often, so I just didn't really want to have any conflict in the letters. 2 points. Anybody else? Critical, please.
How do you store?
You're good. So first thing is to make sure I identify what I'm trying to store. So from the graph, I've got to get something here. Are you good to there?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just catch up to you. Okay, so you're good there, yeah? Okay, now from this screen, type second, quit. Good. What are we trying to, on that other screen we had an x value and a y value. We want the x, so just type x. Type store. Good. Now we can put that value in many different places. I choose B, so I type alpha and then the B key. Make sense? And then just press enter. Good work. 2 more from Brooklyn. Anybody else? Okay, back to here. We have figured out that the greatest value of n is going to be n of 9, n of 23, or the value of n at this time. That's what we know. We don't need to check any other values of n. But this is a written section of the test, so we've got to justify our answer, so we need to go check those values. Well, we have a way of calculating all this, so let's just calculate it. So we write n of 9 is going to equal 0 plus the integral from 9 to 9. That's kind of silly. That will for sure be 0. Anytime you integrate from one number to another and they're the same number, it's always 0. There's no exception.
For that n prime of t, do we have to change that to n prime of t?
Oh, thank you. 2 more. Because I changed this to a number, I no longer have the conflict.
Okay.
So if I leave it as z, that's okay. It doesn't hurt anything. This letter here can be any letter you want, as long as it doesn't conflict with the letter here.
Okay.
It's good work. Please.
Since it tells you that at time equals 9, there are no people in the park, can't you just, you don't have to write all that out, you can just say n of 9 equals 0? Because it tells you in the...
That would be smarter than what I did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, really. I'm feeling a little foolish. Because I went and wrote out this big long thing and I'm like, yeah, Maddie's right. Sorry. Yeah, I just got into that bad habit I tell you not to get into, which is don't just kind of get on autopilot, just kind of start writing without thinking. Yeah, the box would be sufficient.
Okay.
Okay. In fact, you don't even have to write the box.
Okay.
I think it's a little safer to just kind of organize your work, but yeah, good work. Please, John.
Sorry, why did you have Z in the first place?
The Z.
Yeah.
The reason for the Z is this. You know the Z here.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to talk you through it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
It'll stick better. What is this T representing, Josh?
Anytime 9 to 23.
Say it again. It's perfect.
Anytime 9 to 23.
Anytime we choose. But it only represents a single time. Like we pick a time and then it represents that time. We might run the calculation again for a different time, but just one time at a one moment in time. This doesn't represent the same thing. When the calculator performs the integral, it's going to take a value of 9, put it in for this z, compute this for that value of 9, and then it sets that number aside. It will then plug in 9.01, do that calculation again, set that number aside, 9.02, 9.03, 9.04, then it adds those all together. So Z isn't even close to the same thing as this. Can you see that they're distinctly different things?
Yeah.
So I can't use the same letter to represent two things that are different.
Okay.
So I can choose any letter I want here, as long as it's different than this letter. They just have to be different.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good work. 2 more. Anybody else? Cool. Okay. So back to here. Now we do n of, that time would be good. I guess go in order is not a bad idea. So I go n at time 15.795. I remember that I'm not allowed to type that number in my calculator, so I do not type the number. I use my stored value, making sure I've told the grader what b is equal to, because if I haven't told the grader what b is equal to, I'll lose a point right there. So then this is n prime of t dt, and I just tell my calculator to find that. Has anyone already found it, so I don't have to do it? Please, Paige.
I just have a question.
Yeah, please.
Can you write n of b instead?
Yes, as long as you've done this right here, Paige. As long as you've told the grader the value of b. 2 points, please, Drex.
Value.
Yeah, what'd you get?
3,951.
And it does say rounded to the nearest whole number, so that's good. So we're going to just leave that like that. Can anyone confirm that just to make sure? And as raised, give yourself 2, Drex gets 3. Okay. Questions? We do need to go find n of 23 to get full credit on this problem. So don't forget to write n of 23. So copy this over. Now we write n of 23. Zero plus the integral 9 to 23 n prime of t dt. Does anyone have that number for me? Let's go, Hunter.
1.014.
That's exciting. And anyone confirm? 2 points, 3 for Hunter. All that remains to be done is to write my answer. So I read the question very carefully because I've seen a lot of points lost because people do not answer what is being asked. It says specifically, at what time? So I'm going to stop there and write this down. I will continually remind everyone, I think I do the problems way slower than everybody else because I'm just super careful. You need to be careful, otherwise you lose careless points. So let's see, at t equal 15 point, what was it? 795, thank you. 795, I need units, so that would be hours. Let's see, how would I write this? This time, n of t is greatest. That's the time when the number of people in the park is highest. So at that time, n of t is greatest, and then it asks for the number of people at that time. So I write that down too. The number of people at that time, 15.795, is equal to 3951. And that will give me all the points on this problem. On the test you'll take second week in January, hopefully. That problem would be worth 12 out of 100. So, please, Tessa.
Could you write like t equals b, or do you have to do 15?
You should be fine to write t equals b because you've told them what it is. I can't imagine they can take away the points. somehow I get this nervousness, and so I just write out the numbers to make sure.
Okay.
Should be okay. 2 points for Tessa. Anybody else? Oh, please, Hunter.
So what was the whole point of adding the 0 plus and then integration? Just because it doesn't really do too much.
As far as the 0,
Yeah.
here's the reason. 2 points for Hunter. Everyone needs to memorize this little box. It is the most important box in all of AP Calculus AB. This one right here. Whenever you integrate the rate, you are never finding the amount. Whenever you integrate the rate, you're always finding how much the amount changed. So, let's go back to this, copy that over, paste. So, I need to keep track of the fact that that integral is not telling me how many people are in the park at a given time. It's only telling me how much did the amount in the park change during a specified time period. So I want to keep writing that 0 so I don't forget that if the number in the park had actually been bigger, I would have had to take that into account. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. I got distracted trying to get this to show up on all 3 pages and stopped talking, so. Times. There we go. Okay. Other questions, please?
So when we're finding the absolute max, I know that the min-max theorem says that we have to find it's at the starting point, end point, or the relative max. Why do we have to find the values at the end point and midpoint or end point and starting point when you can see on the graph that there's a relative max? Is it just to tell the grader?
So, really good question. I'm going to give you a ticket for this one, Dylan. If it was a multiple choice question, I wouldn't have to do any of that. I just need to find the answer. Because they require me to justify my answers, there's a few different ways that they will allow me to justify my work. The way I showed was one of them, and I think is one of the easiest ways to justify. If you want to see another way, I can show you a different way. Both of them require kind of about the same amount of writing. So yes, I have to have something to justify. And the justification that they're checking for is all built around what I call the min-max theorem, which is this statement we wrote in the beginning, this orange one. Like, you don't have to write the orange, but they will be checking to see if you demonstrate knowledge of the orange. Did that help?
Yeah.
Good work. Anybody else? Cool. Okay, let's keep going. So we're good there. Moving forward. Cool, new situation again. So let's clear this off. Slide these over. And actually, we only got 3 minutes, so I'm going to stop the video. We'll call it good to this.